Chapter 3. The Oral Biosurvival Circuits. Genes, like Leibniz monads, have no windows. The higher properties of life are emergent. Few of our ancestors were perfect ladies or gentlemen. The majority of them were not even mammals. Any multicellular organisms must, if it is to survive, contain hardwired biosurvival circuits, which very simply programs an either or choice: go forward to the nourishing, the protective, or go back, away from the threatening, the predatory, the predatory, the predatory. Any mammals hooks the biosurvival circuits to the first imprinted biosurvival object, the teeth. Biosurvival and orality are deeply blended in all mammals, including domesticated primates, humans in this case. This is why, despite the cancer terror, an estimated 30 million Americans still smoke cigarettes. Others chew gum, spearmint, juicy fruits, even sugar-free, something for every taste. Bite their fingernails, gnaw their knuckles, crunch pencil stubs, eat more than they need, potato chips. Anyone? Mars bar maybe? Pretzel, peanuts, cashew. Do you want the cheese and the cracker with your beer, Mac? And to try to cannabis, Mr. Miller. Some chew their lips, gobbles, tranks, and uppers even munch their mustaches. What goes on in the bedroom is known for the Kinsey Institute and anyone who has seen a porn film. How important is this oral imprinting? We read of a baby giraffe whose mother was accidentally killed by a jeep immediately after birth. The neonate, following hardwired genetic programs, imprinted the first object that roughly fit the giraffe archetype, the jeep itself. He followed the machine around, vocalized to it, attempted to suckle from it, and when adult, tried to mate with it. Similarly, Conrad Lawrence tells a gosling who accidentally imprinted a ping pong ball and spent his adult life indifferent to female geese attempting to sexually mount ping pong ball. As Charles Darwin noted, in our mature years, when an object of vision is presented to us which bears any similitude to the form of the female bosom, we feel a general glow of delight which seems to influence all of our senses. The ancients pictured the great mother goddess Diana of Ephesus with literally dozens of breasts, and St. Paul reports hearing her worshippers chanting rapturously, "Great is Diana!" There is virtually no great artist who has not left us a portrait or many portraits of the female form, especially the breasts. And even in non-human scenes, curves are introduced wherever possible. Architects break the Euclidean straight line to introduce such curves at the slightest pretext. Arches, Moorish domes, etc. The curves of the suspension bridge are necessitated by Newton's laws, gravity rainbow in Pynchon's phrase. But still, these double sanitary curves are aesthetically pleasing for the reason Darwin suggests. As for music, where did we first hear it? Who sang or hummed to us? And against what part of her body were we held? Mountain climber are reduced, like Mallory, to saying because it's there when trying to explain their compulsion to ascend those conic peaks. Our eating utensils or gratification tools tend to be rounded or curved. Square plates or saucers look campy or strange. UFOs come in a variety of shapes, but the most popular are the oval and conic. Freudians suggest that opioid addiction is an attempt to return to the womb. In keeping with our theory, it is more likely that opium and its derivatives return us to the safe space on the biosurvival circuits, the warm, snug place of biosecurity. Opiates might trigger the neurotransmitters characteristic of breastfeeding. What the fuck? In summary, the biosurvival circuit is DNA programmed to seek a comfort safety zone around the mother organism. If a mother isn't present, the closest substitutes in the environment will be imprinted. For the orphan giraffe, a four-wheeled jeep was chosen to stand in for the four-legged mother. The gosling who could not find the round, white body of the mother goose fixated around white ping-pong ball. The wiring of this circuit, in primitive form, occurred in the first organisms between 3 and 4 billion years ago. In the modern human, this structure remains in the brainstem and in the autonomic, involuntary nervous system, where it is interconnected with the endocrine of the other life support system. This is why disturbances of this circuit acts all over the body at once, and generally take the form of physical symptoms rather than mental symptoms, and usually get referred to the MD instead of the psychiatrist. It must be stressed that we are still in a primitive stage of evolution, and conditions on this planet are quite brutal, radical, pediatricians insist, with good evidence that childbirth by conventional means in a conventional hospital is almost always traumatic for the newborn, creates a bad imprint in our language. Our child rearing methods are far from ideal also, adding bad conditioning on top of bad imprinting, and the general violence of our societies today, including wars, revolutions, civil wars, and the undeclared civil war, the predatory criminals class in every civilized nation keep the first circuit of most people in an emergency state far too much of the time. In 1968, a U.S. public health survey showed that 85% of the population had one or more symptoms that we would call bad first circuit imprinting or conditioning. These symptoms include dizzy spells, heart palpitation, wet palm, and frequent nightmares. This means that 85 out of the next 100 people you meet should be regarded as more or less the walking wounded. This is the first level of the meaning in our brutal, cynical proposition that most people are almost mechanical as sci-fi robots. A man or woman entering a new situations which the anxiety chemicals of a frightened infant coursing through the brain stem is not going to be able to observe, judge, or decide anything very accurately. And this is why Gurdjieff said in his own jargon that people are asleep and having nightmares. And I quote, fairness? Decency? How can you expect fairness or decency on a planet of sleeping people? End quote. G.I. Gurdjieff. This was the viewpoint of the earliest Christians, later condemned as heretics, Gnostics, by the Roman bureaucrats. The Gospel of Truth, first century, says bluntly that history is a nightmare. As if mankind was sunk in sleep and found himself in disturbing dreams. Either there is a place to which they are fleeing, or they are involved in striking blows, or they are receiving blows themselves. Sometimes it is as if people were murdering them, or they themselves are killing their neighbors. To these first Christians, as to the Buddhism, awakening literally mean coming out of these nightmare and terrifying fantasies. In our terminology, it means correcting the editing that causes us to behave and perceive like very badly, inappropriately wired robots, and certainly seeing the unedited world. It must be emphasized that these circuits, being the oldest in evolutionary development, is the most mechanical and the most rapid. One is not conscious of time at all, and the biosurvival circuits. What the fuck? Observe the speed of your dog reaction at the first sound of an intruder, the threatening bark, and the movement of the whole body to alert status is automatic. Then the dog starts taking in other cues to determine how this particular intruder should be treated. As Robert Adler reported to the Max of primatologist Ray Carpenter, to understand this part of your brain, imagine that you are a monkey and you are running along a path past a rock and unexpectedly meet face to face another animal. Now, before you know whether to attack it, to flee it, or to ignore it, you must make a series of decisions. Is it a monkey or non-monkey? If non-monkey, is it pro-monkey or anti-monkey? If monkey, it is male or female? If female, is she interested? If male, is it adult or juvenile? If adult, is it of my group or some others? If you have, you fuck. You have about 1/5 of the second to make these decisions, or you could be attacked. The biosurvival program first attaches to a safe space around the mother oral imprint, and then with age moves further and further out, exploring what is safe and what is not. Without hardwired genetic programs, e.a. automatic programs, this second stage would be impossible, and no mammal would ever leave the teeth. The hardwired program acts automatically, unconsciously, because if you had to stop and think out each situation, you would be eaten by the first predator. Of course, the imprint is made by chance. The circumstances at the moment of imprint, vulnerability, fuck, for vulnerability. Recall the Gosling who imprinted ping pong ball. Some imprint bravery, inquisitiveness, and the exploratory drive. Other imprint timidity, infophobia, fear of the unpredictable, and withdrawal, of which the extreme case is the sad imprint called autism or childhood schizophrenia. all of which is robotic, until one learns how to reprogram and re-imprint one's own brain circuits. In most cases, such metaprogramming skills is never acquired. It all goes by in flash and mechanical autopilot in zero time. I just find myself doing it, says the soldier as he being court-martialed for cowardice or decor for bravery. I don't understand. I don't understand every of this shit. It's 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 not make sense. Of course, on top of the hardwired imprint of the biosurvival circuits comes software conditioning. This allows the safe space perimeter to be generalized outward from the mother body to the pack of tribe, the extended family. Every social animal has, in addition to the Darwinian instincts genetic program of self-preservation, a similar instinct to protect the gene pool. This is the basis of altruism, and social animal could not survive without it. Uh, uh, Wild dogs and wolves bark to warn the rest of the pack that an intruder coming. Your domesticated dog it identifies you as a pack leader. He barks to warn you that an intruder is coming. He also barks, of course, to warn the intruder that he is ready to fight for his territory. As civilization has advanced, the pack bond, the tribe, the extended family, has been broken. Has been broken. This is the root of the widely diagnosed enemy or alienation or existential anguish about which so many social critics have written so eloquently. But what's happened is that the conditioning of the biosurvival bond to the gene pool has been replaced by a conditioning of biosurvival drives to hook onto the peculiar tickets which we call money. Concurrently, a modern man or woman doesn't look for biosurvival security in gene pool, the pack, the extended family. Biosurvival depends on getting the ticket. You can't live without money, they say, as the living theater troops used to cry out in anguish. If the tickets are withdrawn, acute biosurvival anxiety appears at once. Once. Imagine as vividly as possible what you would feel and what you would do if all your sources of biosurvival tickets, the money, were cut off tomorrow. This is precisely what tribal men and women feel if cut off from the tribe. This is why exile or even ostracism were sufficient punishments to enforce tribal conformity throughout most human history. As recently as Shakespeare's day, the threat of exile was an acute terror signal. Banish, cries Romeo. The damn use of that word in hell. In traditional society, it belonged to the tribe was biosecurity. Exile was terror, the real threat of death. In modern society, having the ticket, the money, is biosecurity. Security. Having the ticket withdrawn is terror. Welfarism, socialism, totalitarianism, etc. represent attempts in varying degrees of rationality and hysteria to recreate the tribal bond by making the state and state stand in front of the gene pool. Conservatives who claim that no form of welfare is tolerable to them are asking that people live with total biosurvival anxiety and enemy combined with terror. The conservatives, of course, vaguely recognize this and ask for local charity to replace state welfare. Yeah, they ask for the gene pool to be restored by magic. Among people, denizens of a typical city who are not genetically related at all. On the other hand, the state is not a gene pool or a tribe and cannot play the biosurvival unit convincingly. Everybody on welfare becomes paranoid because they are continually worrying that they are going to get cut off, exiled, for some minor infraction of the increasingly incomprehensible bureaucratic rules. And in real totalitarianism, in which the bogus identifications of the state with the tribe is carried to the point of a new mysticism, the paranoia becomes total. Real bonding can only occur in face-to-face group of the reasonable size. Hence, the perpetual attempt, however implausible in industrial circumstances, to decentralize, to go back to the tribal ethos, to replace the state with syndicates as an anarchism or affinity groups, reach consensus recall the hippie stress past the 60s, which lives in many rural communes. Back in the real world, the ticket called money are biosurvival bond for most people. Anti-Semitism is a complex aberration of many facets and causes, but it's classic from the Jewish bankers' conspiracy. It simply holds that the hostile, inevitably in the money economy junkies have similar myths about who controls the supply of heroines. Thus, anti-Semitism has declined in America. The bankers' conspiracy lives on in a new form. Now the villains are Old England Wasps, WASP families, the Yankees establishments. Some leftists will even show you charts of the genealogies of these WASPs bankers, the way anti-Semites used to show Rothschild genealogies. The alpha males eat first. The runs of the leader get whatever it left over. It's like it's hard. This is not make sense. The choosing words, the it's incomprehensible. This chapter is incomprehensible. C.H. Douglas, the engineer and the economist, one made up a chart which he showed to the Macmillan Commission in 1932 when they were discussing money and credit regulation. The chart graphs the rise and fall of interest rates from the defeat of Napoleon in 1912 to the date of the Commission met in 1932, and on the same scale, the rise and fall of suicide rate on that 120-year period. The two curves were virtually identical. Every time the interest rate went up, so did the suicide rate. When the interest went down, so did the suicide. This can hardly be coincidence. When interest rises, a certain number of businessmen go bankrupt and certain workers are thrown out of their job, and everybody's biosurvival anxiety generally increases. Marxists and other radicals are urgently aware of such factors in mental health, and hence scornful of all types of academic psychology which ignore these biosurvival issues. Unfortunately, the Marxist remedy, making everybody dependent for biosurvival on the whims of a state bureaucracy, is a cure worse than the disease. Biosurvival anxiety will only permanently disappear when worldwide wealth has reached a level and a distribution where, without totalitarianism. Everyone has enough ticket. The Hunger Project, the idea of guaranteed annual income, Douglas' National Defeating Plan, etc. represent working toward that goal. The ideal can only be achieved in a technology of abundance. Extreme cases, persons who take their heaviest imprint on the first oral circuits, tend to be viscerotonic because this imprint that remains lifelong in the brain and glandular processes. Thus, in extreme, they are baby face in adult life, never lose their baby fat, a prom round, gentle, etc. They are easily hurt, threatened, terrified by disapproval of any sort. Because in the baby circuit of the brain, disapproval suggests extinctions by loss of the food supply. We all have these circuits and need to exercise it periodically. Cuddling, sucking, hugging, etc. The daily playing with one's own body, by B, not body, and C, environment, are perpetually necessary to neurosomatic endocrine health. Those who deny such primordial functions because of rigid imprinting on the third rationalistic and fourth moralistic circuits tend to become dried up, prune-faced, unattractive, cold, and most clearly rigid. The baby function playing with one own body, another body, and the environment continues throughout life in all animals. This playfulness is a marked characteristic of all conspicuously healthy individuals of the sort Maslow calls self-actualizer. If this initial imprint is negative, if the universe in general and other humans in particular are imprinted as dangerous, hostile, and frightening, the prover will go on throughout life adjusting all perceptions to fit this map. This is what is known as the injustice collector syndrome in the language of Dr. Edmund Burglar. The female members of this imprint group become radical feminists. The male members are less organized and can be found in fringe groups of the extreme left and extreme right. Such pattern is unconscious in three ways. It is unconscious because automatic. It happens without thoughts, as a robot program. It is also unconscious because it begins before the infant had language, and hence its pre-verbal inarticulate felt rather than considered. And it is unconscious because it is all over the body at once, especially it is characterized by the respiratory block, first noted by Wilhelm Reich, a chronic muscular armoring that prevents proper relaxing breathing. Popular speech recognizes these states as being uptight. All of the most successful reimprinting techniques surveys for this kind of chronic anxiety work on the body first, not on the mind. The Richards, Raffles Primus Scream Service, or Rebirthers, Justice, etc. all know, whatever specialized jargon they may use, that a bad biosurvival imprint can only be corrected by working on the biological being itself, the body that feels perpetual vulnerable and under attack. Even neurolinguistic program (NLP) began by inducing the patient to relax and breathe easily. Is fuck. As Gregory Peterson has pointed out, the Conrad Lawrence acquired his marvelous insight to the imprinting process, for which he won the Nobel Prize by consciously imitating the body movement of the animals he was studying. Watching Lawrence lecture, one could see each animal discuss, because Lawrence would dramatize and become the animal. anymore. In the matter of method, actually, even earlier, Wilhelm Reich discovered that he could understand his patients with remarkable clarity by imitating the characteristic body movement and posture, the biosurvival imprint, especially traumatic ones, are all over the body, frozen in rich metaphor in chronic muscle and gland mechanism. If you can't understand somebody's rational behavior, start by observing their breathing. You will very quickly get an idea of what bothers them. This is why a school of yoga, Buddhism, Hindu, or Sufi place such emphasis on restoring natural breathing before trying to move, and a student on the higher circuits and wider consciousness. This is more than psychological import. Every study of the psychosomatic aspect of cancer and asthma, for instance, finds this pattern of chronic muscular contraction, subjective feel as anxiety among the predisposing factors. What the thinker thinks, the prover proves. People strangling their inner organ every day because they are afraid. Mary Baker Eddy might have been exaggerating slightly when she said all illness is manifested fear. But holistic medicine more and more recognizes that if that damn word all is replaced by a more tentative most, Mr. Eddy was close to the fact. Even old fangled MDs who won't consider holistic ideas for a minute admit that some persons are mysteriously more susceptible to disease than another person. What is this metaphysical susceptibility? Anthropologist Ashley Montagu has collected numerous statistics on children who were deprived of maternal love and the crucial point of imprint vulnerability and infancy. They not only died younger than the national average, but were sicklier in their lives and even grew up to be several inches shorter than the average adult height of their sex. What makes for susceptibility, aside from possible genetic factor, can only be such an anxiety imprint, muscle tension on the first circuit. Christian Science or any other religion that dogmatically insists that God wants us to be happy and successful can cure such condition miraculously. What the thinker thinks, the proverb proves absolutely faith that God is supporting you, beam you from praying all day long, day after day, signal muscles to relax and naturally buoyancy and health return. Throughout human life, when the biosurvival circuit senses danger, all other mental activity ceases. All their circuits shuts down until the biosurvival problem is solved, realistically or symbolically. This is crucially important of the mind washing and brain programming. To create a new imprint, first reduce the subject to the state of infancy, be survival vulnerability. We will enlarge upon this later. In pre-neurological terms, the biosurvival circuit is what we usually call consciousness, per se. It is the sense of being here now, in this vulnerable body, subject to the raw energies and forces of the physical universe. When we are unconscious, the biosurvival circuit is turned off and doctor might cut us off without our attempting to flee or even carrying out exercises on their means to enjoy these primitive circuits fully form now on. Play with yourself and others and the environment shamelessly, like a newborn baby. Meditate on unless you become as a little child, you shall in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. 2. Never mind your diet. You will reach the optimum weight for your height when your brain is operating properly. Enjoy one real sweet and gooey dessert every week. Diabetics, of course, but you uh, should buy this goodie in non-sugar sections. Get high on the marijuana if this is permissible through superego, or on ginseng, which is legal everywhere and recommended by many holistic physicians. You can get high by ginseng, really? And then go on a health spa, enjoy a good swim, massage, and sauna. Repeat every week forever. 4. Take a course of Kung Fu or Karate for at least 3 months and reread this whole chapter. You will be surprised at how much more every sentence will mean. Lie on your back and pant rapidly on the count of 20. Each exhale, inhale cycle count as 1, not as 2. Panning means breathing rapidly through your mouth, as forbidden by almost all experts on health. But this is only an exercise, not a full-time practice. When you reach 20, stop and resume nose breathing in the slow, rhythmic manner recommended by yogis to the count of 20. Then repeat the panting on the count of 20. Then repeat proper yoga breathing. This is known the breath of fire in tantric yoga. The result are most amusing and enlightening. Try it. Visit an aquarium and observe very closely. Try to see the biosurvival circuit of fish brain in operation and recognize when that and how that circuit in your own brain has operated throughout your life. If you don't have a baby or haven't had one for many years, play with somebody else's baby for an hour. Then reread this chapter. Like opiate use, this exercise seems to trigger neurotransmitters similar to mother milks. It takes you back to the snug security of breastfeeding and is not addictive. Not addictive, really. I don't understand this chapter. It's like a fragmented, you know.